Hello, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Beyond the Summer presentation of the iLeague Season 3 Dota 2 Chinese qualifiers. Here we've got Tongfu versus Newbee.Y, and this is going to be Game 2 of a best of 2. That's right, it's a 2-game series, and the first one went the way of Newbee.Y. They were just able to really out-tempo the draft of Tongfu. There was some real potential with that Midas Ancient Apparition, the Spectre, building up to her Radiance. They could have held the high ground and fought for the late game for a really long time, but Newbee.Y just had too much momentum behind them. They were able to get too much farm on the Templar Assassin because of all the ancient stacks. They got a lot from pretty much every member of the defensive tri-lane, thanks to Q1 feeding so much on the Bristleback, and they were able to translate that into real objective-taking potential with Roche control, dominance there, and yeah, Newbee.Y just looked really good. So we're going to be looking into this game too, and well, let's see it. I mean, Tongfu, they've already built themselves a nice combo of heroes, the Earthshaker, the Shadow Fiend, so the SF is kind of a vulnerable mid laner, but Earthshaker's one to kind of keep him covered, provide him some backline support. And then Queen of Pain and Rubik is going to come out. Rubik is actually really good against Earthshaker in the sense that he can steal the Fissure. He can also lift people over it, so that's really fun to be able to manipulate the positioning of enemies significantly. But he's so-so against Shadow Fiend. I mean, he's low armor, low movement. Shadow Fiend loves to just find those targets caught out that are disengaging from him and just go for like 2 or 3 raises, as well as a couple of right clicks on those squishy heroes. And Rubik doesn't really often get the chance to steal the Requiem. When he does, it's awesome, but if he just gets raises, it's kind of lackluster. But Newbee.Y are going to add on to this and say, okay, we're not just going to go for one squishy support that is capable of warding and then do nothing with it. We're going to use the fact that Rubik is item independent to get an Ancient Apparition online as well. And with AA, Queen of Pain, and Rubik, you've got some tremendous nuke potential. I mean, Fade Bolt's kind of lackluster, but you got your Scream Sonic Wave, your Ice Blast, all amped up by the Ice Vortex. Well, the ulti of Queen of Pain isn't, it's pure damage, but it still looks nice because it's just a lot of quick ways to take away the enemy's HP, gun somebody down, and Shadow Fiend's really, his worst enemy is death. If he loses Necromastery stacks, he loses momentum, he has a harder time building himself back up. Like, essentially, every single time Shadow Fiend goes down, his first thing on his to-do list is get his levels back to 36. So, we'll see. They'll look to kind of keep him covered, keep him safe, and probably pick up some more defensive heroes to keep him covered. Phoenix here, going to be going to the off lane most likely for Q1. Does pretty well on this hero, but Rubik does have the potential to just telekinesis lift him out of the Icarus dive, so he has to be very careful in his positioning. Beyond that, I expect Newbee.Y to go for a carry that has some kind of disable to it. Piao's not going to be able to go for the Juggernaut this time around, so we'll see exactly what he's looking for, but
10 seconds.
I mean, I would actually almost say like a PA is going to be okay here. Like, obviously you're worried about magical damage nuking you down, but just something with a little bit of a right-click steroid would be really nice. Morphling's going to be not too bad. You could definitely get to manipulate your agility to control the state of the game, and it adds on to their initial burst. I mean, you get the waveform out, maybe even look for that Ethereal Blade pretty early on, and yeah, you can just take somebody down really quickly. The weakness of Morphling is that he doesn't have that great of attack range, so the Fissure's going to lock him out of the fights unless he is willing to commit his waveform to get across it, and you generally don't use your offensive abilities like that unless you're very confident, because then you won't have any way of retreating from that fight. And the range issue comes into play against the Phoenix in particular, up against that Supernova. It's going to be really hard to right-click that egg for the Morphling, so he's going to have to build maybe a right-click-oriented build this time instead of the E-Blade build. He still could go for the E-Blade, but we're not going to see like Lincoln's E-Blade this game. We're going to be seeing some good stat items, and then either an E-Blade Rush, which translates into more items as he gets kills, or he's just going to ignore that entire build and just go for hard right-click, Butterflies and Scotties and that kind of thing. So, Morphling is an interesting pick for sure, and it makes the lanes work out pretty well. I mean, Rubik AA Morphling will deal with anybody well, so Tongfu don't really have the option for an aggro try, necessarily, but the Phoenix isn't going to have the best of time against the Rubik, as I mentioned. So, Phantom Lancer is going to be picked here for Tongfu. Pretty solid hero in general, and the Diffusal is actually going to work wonders against pretty much all of Newbee.Y's lineup. There's not a single hero that Newbee have picked up that isn't frustrated when they're running low on mana. Like, the Diffusal Blade mana burn actually screws Morphling over pretty hard. Queen of Pain, it'll take a while to take effect because she has so much mana to burn, but yeah, it's going to frustrate her quite a bit too. So, I think the PL is a pretty solid pickup here. Doppelganger is a very powerful skill to dodge out a lot of things like the Queen of Pain, and we'll see how well it can be utilized. But yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to go try versus try. I think they have to go defensive with this PL. He's going to just try to kind of go for a farm race against the Morphling. And I think one really big aspect of the early game for Tongfu is blocking off the Radiant Pull camp. If they can block off the Radiant Pull, Ancient Apparition won't be able to just deny the Phoenix everything, as well as build up himself in terms of a support. Because Rubik is great at zoning Phoenix. He's going to be up there zoning Phoenix constantly, and AA is going to be the one to be pulling. But if they can actually block out the Radiant camp, then I think that Tongfu will have a much better potential to actually limit the Morphling's farm, build up the Phoenix, and just do better on that bottom lane. So, as far as these last picks coming through, we're looking at another support for Tongfu, or an offlaner technically. It could be a support Phoenix. Don't see it as often though. And then Newbee.Y, I believe they're looking for their offlaner. Obviously, Morphling and Queen of Pain do have some flexible alternatives, but I think that they want to run SCC Queen of Pain for sure, and Piao is pretty good on the Morphling. So right now, the Broodmother's going to get banned down. Again, Earthshaker's just, he's okay at dealing with that towards the mid game, but in the early game, it costs way too much mana to try to fish your stupid spiders. And it shows that they're going to go for a support that probably can't manage it either, so. Disruptor bans. Disruptor is just really good against Queen of Pain and Morphling. The fact that they use Waveform and Blink to move about the map, they can be glimpsed back after those are on cooldown, and then the silence comes through. So they go ahead, they ban that. Is Lion still in the pool? After all of this, Lion's still in the pool. That is incredible. So yeah, Shadow Shaman or Lion is definitely going to be Tongfu's last pick in my mind, because the Hex is really good against Morphling. It just depends if they want to take objectives, which is what the Shadow Shaman's better at, or if they want to just focus on kills, which obviously is what the Lion is better at. His Hex is also a little bit better in my mind. So definitely, I think Lion probably for Tongfu with like a 20% chance of Shadow Shaman. I feel like a weatherman right now, predicting heroes raining down upon the battlefield. But Newbee.Y, they've only got 5 seconds left to decide their offlaner here, and they're going to be going with the Brewmaster. So it's a little difficult to run the Brewmaster these days with the armor nerf, the slow nerf from his Thunderclap. But if he plays a very defensive build, he just kind of hides under tower. I don't know, the Lion can still zone him out, and Phantom Lancer can punish him pretty heavily with the Spirit Lance, but as long as they get a good ward covering any Earthshaker rotations, he shouldn't feed. He shouldn't die being blocked out by a Fisher, but, you know, it's still a risky business. But I think they're more not really picking it up for the lanes. They feel their lanes in mid and bottom are going to be strong enough that they're going to be picking him up for what he can contribute to the mid to late game, and I think that's going to be forcing some BKBs, that's going to be putting out a lot of pressure, and it's just in general something that 456 is very appreciative of. But Kabu Lina, when Lion and Shadow Shaman were both in the pool, I can't say I'm on board with this. I feel like Lina is, in a supportive role, is kind of going to be a poor man's Lion in this situation. I feel Lion is superior in pretty much every capacity to Lina in this draft. Obviously, there are plenty of other drafts where support Lina has more to bring to the table. But right now, like, the one thing that you don't want your Earthshaker to have to do is stick around one lane. LPC, he wants to counter roam. He wants to cover U9 in the mid. He wants to help and surprise gank and cut off the Brewmaster's path of retreat on the top lane. But the problem is, Kabu, his big weakness is that his Light Strike Array is hard to land. Now, the Spirit Lance may very well set it up, so it really, I guess it comes down to positioning. Let's talk about this a little more. I guess I'm speaking pretty absolutely. Think about this. Lina has a 670 attack range. If she gets early boots of speed, she's able to harass this Brewmaster to Kingdom Come. He's going to have to go Stout Shield, get a ton of regen, and it looks like we're going to have remake. So I get to talk about this a little bit more. But essentially, what we're looking at here... Oh, wow, I'm not even gonna... I just had a very significant brain failure right there. Instead of about leaving the game to get into the AP remake that we're about to do, I was about to turn the stream off. I look over at my other screen, and I'm like literally one button click away from just sending a picnic your guys' direction. But yeah, that was close. But yeah, we're going to have a remake real quick, and I get to talk about that a little bit more. So up against the Brewmaster, you've got a defensive tri-lane of Lina, Phantom Lancer, and in part Earthshaker. So what I'm looking at there is if the Brewmaster tries to actually contest a creep wave, he's going to die, because he's going to get hit by the Spirit Lance, and that's going to set up the Light Strike Ray. If he stays back and just goes for his max experience range, Delina will be able to poke and harass him as a right clicker, and it's going to force the Brewmaster to stay on the defensive and only soak experience up. But he won't die, generally speaking, as long as he sees the Earthshaker moving around. So the way I see it, it just comes down to the Brewmaster 456. I don't think he's the kind of player that can test the creep wave if it's unsafe. So he might die once and then learn his lesson and just stay back from there. But essentially, the Lina pick as a support in the laning phase will force Brewmaster to go for a very delayed Blink Dagger. He'll go boots, he'll maybe go bottle, he'll just try to sustain and hold position on the lane, and then he'll go and wait out the Blink Dagger, and he won't get it for like 16 or 17 minutes. So the Lina pick has a lot of zoning potential. I'll show the lobby real quick, show you guys. We're almost ready to get back into the game. AP remake. But essentially, yeah, it's what we're looking at is Lina's going to have some good zoning potential. And when the Earthshaker and Lina collaborate, they've got some really good chain stun. But again, the one thing that I really like about the Lion and the Shadow Shaman is that they have a Hex against Morphling. And the reason that that's important is because the way that Strength Toggle works against different disables. If you're caught in a Chronosphere, an RP, any kind of stun, then you're just still going to be able to turn your morph on or off, and you're going to be able to strength morph up as you need to survive, and you're going to be okay unless they burst you extremely heavily. And I first of all, I don't feel like the strength of Tongfu's lineup is in their burst. They've got a Phoenix, damage over time. They've got a Phantom Lancer, a lot of damage over time. Really, it's going to be Laguna Blade and Echo Slam. They have to connect on Morphling to kill him off. And the way I see it is essentially, if Morphling is able to keep strength morphing and survive because of it, it's because of that draft. It's because they picked Lina instead of Lion. Because Hex is one of the few disables. Silences and Hexes are the two disables that stop Morph from being toggled on or off, even if he is attempting to, even if he's stunned. So the way I see it, a Blink Hex is so much stronger than like a Blink Yule's Light Strike Array, because you can still toggle the morph. So we'll see. Obviously, you can't be absolute about it. Lina, I think, will have some more zoning potential in the laning phase than a Lion would, but I don't feel like the Brewmaster is going to be their big issue. I think that later on the morphing is going to be their big issue, and we'll see how they address it. Because right now they don't have the standard counters. They don't have a Hex. They don't have an Ancient Apparition Ice Blast. They don't have ET's Aura that takes away all his armor. Like, this morphling's actually going to be a pretty big beast, and it's going to be scary. Scary, scary stuff to deal with. So we're going to see all these heroes get picked up here. And in 65 seconds, we'll be getting into the game. So yeah, again, 456 is going to take the Brewmaster to the off lane. Piao is going to take the Morphling to, I believe, the safe lane. Sometimes we see Morph mid, but not commonly. Ancient Apparition and Rubik will be the supports between MRR and MK. And that will leave Queen of Pain, played by SCC, on the mid. For Tongfu's side, we've got Q1, that's the brown Chinese characters. That's going to be playing the Phoenix on the off lane. They've got Shadow Fiend for the mid, should be played by U9. That would leave Kabu and LPC to take up the Earthshaker and the Lina. And then, of course, Red would be playing the Phantom Lancer here. So overall, pretty even draft with a decent edge to the late game for Newbee.Y in my mind. The fighting potential for Newbee.Y in the mid to late game is really strong. Tongfu, they don't have heroes that really like to go for BKBs other than the Shadow Fiend, and they're going to have to. I mean, even maybe on the Phantom Lancer as a 4th item, just because it's kind of awkward. But yeah, let me make sure I got that all right. Yeah, everything's as I said it for the introductions there. And this is once again game 2 of our 2-game series between Tongfu and Newbee.Y. Newbee.Y already leading by 1 win, and I think their draft is pretty strong for game number 2. But we'll see how the landing phase plays out. Obviously, this Brewmaster could have some issues surviving. A couple things comes down to Brewmaster getting a ward that can spot the Earthshaker's rotation, as well as a Tongfu if they could block off this pull. If they can block off the pull camp or even this camp here, that would open up their bottom lane a lot. But otherwise, I think Phoenix is going to have a really bad time. And 456, actually going to get fissured out. What a Fisher positioning from LPC. Oh my gosh, that is insane. He must have gone to I mean, I don't even know. Like, I'm sure that's happened to him sometime in like a pub game. Like, he just goes into matchmaking and some genius just pulls out that one crazy spot. But oh my gosh, I've actually never seen that Fisher block. I don't know why the Brewmaster was so intent on moving that far forward into the dire side, but if they scout him, they're going to rout him. That was a brilliant way to find the first blood for Tongfu, and it starts him off really well on the right foot, giving it to the Lina. She's going to be able to build up her boots of speed pretty early on. In fact, she's already got him in the courier. She actually went for a build that was just only a few hundred gold away from boots of speed, and she was just going to assume that she'll get them around like the 2-minute mark after the bottle makes its way to Shadow Fiend. She can pick up her boots. But in this case, she gets the first blood, she gets them out instantly, and the zoning potential is going to be insane from Kabu. The right clicks are going to be so frustrating for the Brewmaster, and 456 is going to get almost nothing from this lane, thanks to that first blood. Piao does make his way to the mid lane, so I wasn't sure if they would swap it up, SCC, but feels more confident going down bottom and maybe putting more pressure on the Phoenix that way. So that leaves Piao to take up the mid lane versus the Shadow Fiend, and right now he gets to have a huge damage advantage. Look, 48 plus 5 versus 63 plus 3. And this is because he went level 1 morph and in the fountain switched over to 35 to 13 for his base agi to strength ratio. So that's actually really helpful for him, limiting U9's souls. He's actually going to have to Shadow Raise for a lot of these last hits. Like, look at this lane control from Piao. He is denying and pseudo-denying U9 up and down this lane, and it ends up being a 4 to 3 and 1 to 1. So it's all about the Agimorph here, baby. This is how you actually can shut down an SF hard, is just go ahead and get a hero that has so much absurd right-click damage that he just can't compete. And he might even need a lane rotation. That's why the Earthshaker's here. Like, oh man, this has got to be frustrating for him. In fact, speaking of lane rotations, we've got a smoke already. Rubik seems to be a little bit faster on his feet. He really wants to use this smoke with the boots of speed, but Ancient Apparition is kind of trailing behind, trying to get involved too. Smoke's not going to last much longer. This was a very deep smoke, but they'll get Kabu. This is going to punish him heavily. Under the tower, he'll get hit by the Thunderclap, and I love this move. They didn't end up really needing the Ancient Apparition too much, but he contributes to Chilling Touch and a right click. And they do get the kill on the Lina, turning this into a pseudo-aggro try. So the strength of the Queen of Pain is she's an independent core, whereas the Morphling, he needs a little bit of help if he's in the safe lane. The Queen of Pain does not. She can go against this Phoenix and 1v1 him as much as she needs to, and as a result, Newbee is free to rotate their supports. They show their supports down bottom, maybe pull one creep wave, yeah they did, and then they go ahead and immediately rotate with the Smoke of Deceit. And what that allows them to do, they know that Kabu's just going to be sitting right here pretty much constantly. They know that he's going to be zoning back the Brewmaster, keeping him off the creep wave, anytime that she's not going to be taking creep aggro. But now they've got this full... they find this opportunity to get their own second blood, and now they're going to pin in hard on PL. He will go for the Doppelganger, pretty aggressive play, double Light Strike Array, and the Fisher coming out. They will get one kill, and they're just going to rout them from the lane. 456 is like, thanks for the gank, guys, but... now we're kind of feeding. Triple kill coming out for Tongfu on this top lane. Two of them going the way of the Phantom Lancer. Oh man, they really wanted red, but he baited them in. He's like, yeah, just come into my little corner. This is where the cat plays with her toys. And here, the Phantom Lancer he is able to just really pretty much orchestrate their entire demise. That is a really fun play. We're going to see the Rubik go back up top to help out and make sure the Brewmaster doesn't get zoned as heavily as Kabu could apply the pressure. But we're going to see the Ancient Apparition go back down and just work on his own experience in gold by pulling mostly. Phoenix going to pop out some Fire Spirit, dueling it out with the Queen of Pain, but she's pretty good to, at the very least, scream her last hits, if not right-click them. Like, if the Fire Spirits are making last hitting too difficult, she can always scream a Pain, and that'll be fine. The one thing that she is lacking in this bottom lane, though, is kill potential. If the Phoenix always keeps his Icarus dive in reserve, like, there's no reason he should die. But that's just because she doesn't have a way to interrupt it, and neither will the Ancient Apparition. The Out's taking some heavy fire, though. The 4-minute rune spawns, and it's covered up, but the Earthshaker is nearby. Luckily, they do have the Strength Morph, so they'll build his HP up just enough to tank an initial burst of damage, and he'll get that rune bottled. Now, watch this. Watch his stats. He actually Agi-morphs a couple of times first, and then he bottles. And this makes bottle regen more efficient, just because the way that current to max HP works. He's able to get more efficiency out of the bottle because he has less HP to build up. It's the same way bottle is like really good on Sven, because he has very little mana. Well, Morphling can make sure that he has very little HP with the Agi-morph. So he's doing pretty good, but he's still taking a lot of harassment. Una is going to put him down to 100 HP, and he's going to have to morph up. But now it should be a kill on the Phoenix. He's got his TP scroll, though. Maybe he TPs, waits for the telekinesis, and then Icarus dives. But, oh, it's just going to be an Icarus dive away. Scream and Shadow Strike. SCC pursues. They're still going to be able to bring him down. He's just too far forward, and there's too many heroes here. So, nice kill there. Going to be getting the second one on the board for Newbee.Y, but still, that top lane is doing amazingly well for Tongfu. They're pushing pretty hard here. No Basilius or anything, but they're still... I mean, Brewmaster can't even go onto the tower to pull back the creeps. Like, he wants to pull back the dire creeps, but Light Striker is there on top of the Spirit Lance, and he's terrified. He is absolutely terrified. Meanwhile, the mid lane kill does come through. Was looking for it, but essentially it's just a Fisher and raises as the Morphling sticks around too long. He was sticking around a very, very low HP, and he gets punished for it. Now having to go back to a lot of agility. And he's going to go back bottom. Feels too pressured in this mid lane. He's like, guys, you set me up. You set me up for failure here. I can win out the first few waves against the Shadow Fiend hardcore, and that's awesome. But as the lanes progress, I can't do anything. Getting hit by so many magical nukes. Morphling's a hero that ideally doesn't want to be harassed or poked at all. He wants to keep his HP full so that he can just go like full Agi and win by hardcore CSing. Actually going to go here pretty decently onto the Phoenix, but it's just harassment, it seems, as he last hits a few creeps in the process. So the tier 1 tower is still alive, but honestly just barely. We've 500 HP. That's going to be taken down pretty quickly if they get another opportunity, and Newbee.Y have to think about their rotations. Like, can they actually respond if the tower gets pressured again? We've got a TP scroll on the Queen of Pain as well as the Rubik. Shadow Fiend going to be just going through his jungle, kind of saying, okay, well, thanks, Earthshaker, for stacking things up for me. LPC, you're a bro, helping me out, and he's going to build up his net worth to a substantial 4K. So that is going to be Mechanism timing insanity, actually. He is looking really strong now. Despite missing the first few waves of creeps against the Morphling, he's able to still pull out like an 8.5 minute Mechanism, and that's just going to allow him to fight so much more actively, push so much more actively. The Star Observer Ward, it looks a little weird. As you can see, you can't really... It's in the rocks, but it does see up to this point. So if he ever goes into a spot where he can be fissured, they'll find him. And actually, it's going to be LPC that's found out this time. There's going to be some nukes flying away at 456, but he's not going to go down. LPC, he gets a whack, and there goes the Earthshaker. So rotating in the Rubik as well as the Queen of Pain. And that's one weakness of the Dire Observer Ward here, is that it doesn't provide much vision to the east. Like, this is where the cone starts for this ward. So you don't see anything that you normally would over here, and they could just kind of walk it in for that easy gank onto the Earthshaker. I don't even think they were looking for the Earthshaker in the river there. I think they were looking... I mean, they could have. They had a Radiant Observer Ward, so they probably were. Never mind. I was going to say they could probably look to blink to the high ground and try to pick on the Phantom Lancer a little bit, but no, they found the easy pick, and they just commit the Sonic Wave for it. So, did the Phoenix go down? No, he just was forced back to base. But he's going to have his Tranquil Boots and 250 gold, and he'll feel better about himself then. Piao, it just seems like he can't catch a break. Like, he's looking for an easy lane. He's just saying, please, guys, stop harassing me. But if it's not the Shadow Fiend raises, it's going to be the Phoenix throwing out those Fire Spirits. So a lot of points of frustration for him, but he's got some sustain now with this bottle. And he's just going to actually put some pressure out here with a nice intelligence waveform forward onto the Phoenix. Aggressive stance from Tongfu up top. Don't have the Light Strike Array. The smoke pops pretty early here. That was a very early smoke pop. I think it just dispelled. I wasn't looking at the timer, so I think it just dispelled, because I don't think they're anywhere near the radius of the tower for that smoke. Anyways, they're just going to go ahead, secure the tier 1 tower kill, and any rotations would have been punished. So it's actually really good that the Queen of Pain just does her own thing and uses her Basilius to push mid. Shadow Fiend's coming back in. We have a 2-man rotation, scouted out by the Radiant Observer. So previously they put an Observer up here. Now they have one over here, just kind of getting this general sense of the map. Meanwhile, Piao down bottom, feeling pretty good, just building himself back up from a difficult laning configuration. But it seems like with this mechanism, U9 is just like, hey guys, let's push. And they're going to be able to force out the glyph pretty early on. They've already taken the top tier 1, and the mid will be down to 290 HP. That's pretty much nothing. Next push wave, they can take this thing down. It's that extra Necromastery right click now with 36 souls. I wonder what the Phoenix goes for after the Tranquil Boots. Urn of Shadows maybe. Midas Rush. We'll see a good flank coming in. Brewmaster has that ultimate, but they don't have the glyph, so they won't be able to save the tower, but they're still looking to capitalize on this positioning as they kind of split things up a little bit. LPC in a rough spot, but they can't get in range for the telekinesis just yet. And in fact, this Dire Observer, if they break the smoke, they'll be revealed pretty easily. So we're going to see Kabu caught out, so they're going to at least get him, and Phoenix goes in. Supernova on the front line now. Can they bring down the egg? Yes! 5 right clicks will be delivered. Phoenix goes down, and now U9 very low on health after the mechanism. They tornado up the Earthshaker. They get the low HP heroes out, or I thought they would, but AA drops on the back line to that Shadow Fiend. So they clean him up. They take down 4, but of course they did lose a couple of heroes to that SF, so kind of unfortunate there. Either way, fight recap should tell a pretty clear story that it is in favor of Newbee.Y. 4 for 2 as they build themselves up to an even kill score. I mean, that's a great way to commit the Primal Split, and finding the Lina there and then Tongfu trying to respond was exactly what Newbee.Y needed to make that happen. In the meantime, though, while Morphling was contributing to that fight, the PL was farming, and as we see on net worth, they're going to be pulling ahead on their 2 cores. BOT is up on the Phantom Lancer. It's really just a great item in terms of efficiency. He doesn't need any other item to build himself up a little bit more. He can just kind of BOT across the map, find the opportunities to avoid the fights by just continuing to TP around, and that allows him to just essentially have that free TP scroll. Like, oh, okay, big dive in. This is a huge commitment from the Queen of Pain. She's TPing out. Whoa. That is an interesting play. I'm trying to justify it, but essentially I think she just saw the Lina. She jumps to the Lina, realizes it's more than the Lina, and her right clicks are being inhibited by Fire Spirits. So she says, okay, let's strike around cooldown. See ya, and TP's home. I think that was just a quick on-the-fly decision-making from SCC. Very abrupt, but, you know, it doesn't really change too much. There's some intimidation factor there, too. Anywho, looking at the overall gold and experience graph, we've got almost 1,500 in favor of Tongfu. Experience back the other way, 500 after that last fight. But as far as overall mid to late game, where Newbee.Y will be getting strong is this Ice Blast. This Ice Blast will be coming online very shortly, and I think that MK is going to be able to hit some big ones. He has a very global presence of mind. I've seen him play as support Zeus, and every single Thunder God's Wrath was very contribution from what I saw from that game. Yeah, it's limited sample size, but I'll take it and say that this guy watches the map a lot, and that means he's probably going to find some good Ice Blasts. But right now, it's going to be a Fisher Light Strike Ray combo, bringing him down, and that level 6 will have to wait. Nice kill coming in for the Lina. They still have this Laguna Blade available too, and the Urn of Shadows went to her, so Phoenix could probably just go for a Midas Rush at this point. Kind of needs it. He's getting right-clicked so heavily in these fights. He needs like Midas into Shiva's Guard as his item build. If the Orchid, if Queen Pain goes Orchid, as it looks like she will. Oh, waveform forward onto U9. Big damage coming out. The Brew Split already in play. They throw the Lina up in the air. LPC looks like he'll get out, but Kabu is the focus. BOTing down. Red wants to get involved. He'll throw a nice lance on the MK. And it looks like they'll kill the Ancient Apparition again, but they are still losing heroes left and right. There is going to be these Fire Spirits spread among many, and he will pop the Supernova, doing some good damage here. But the Morphling keeps on morphing, has the waveform available, and that's how the fight will end. So they lose the Ancient Apparition 2 times in a row. They're going to look for the PL, but he got a really lucky spawn on that Doppelganger. Jumping to the furthest possible illusion, he gets to walk away. So the fight recap will show just a basic 2-for-1. It doesn't count the Ancient Apparition's first death when Tongfu rotated. But yeah, the split, the Sonic Wave committed, and as a result, they take a superior fight. Just showing off that new Blink Dagger from 456. And no surprise, I mean, when you commit these big team fight ultimates from the Queen of Pain and Brewmaster, that's their job, is to win the fights at this stage in the game. So we're going to see more from them. Harassing Ice Blast, but Red won't even get hit by anything. Even missing the clap here, that cost Brewmaster quite a bit of mana. And Doppelganger Steal from Rubik. Actually, that's one spell I have not seen Rubik use. So, it's dodging Light Strike Arrays, being annoying otherwise. I don't know. It's interesting. But what else is there to talk about here? We're seeing the Morphling perhaps go for a Lincoln Sphere build. Pretty good against Lina. She's gonna like go for a Yule's Blade, Yule's into Laguna Blade type progression as far as her single target spells. The only other really thing that you have to worry about knocking it off is a Spirit Lance to the face. Not that big of a deal. So this linkage should pretty much just give him anti-Lina coverage. It's very unlikely the Phantom Lancer is going to start a fight by lancing the Morphling. So pretty much he's suddenly immune to Lina, and that's actually just the best. That's probably the most efficient way you can use a Lincoln Sphere. Like, there's tons of we've talked about tons of different ways Lincoln Sphere can be effective. If there's a bunch of abilities that you can block, if there's only a couple, because whatever. But in this case, he just knows that he will never get Laguna Bladed, and that's pretty much just enough insurance for him that he can just keep on pushing, keep on putting pressure out, and he should be safe because that burst damage won't be there. Ice Blast is going to frustrate Tongfu's attempts at the Roche, but it's not going to finish him. They're going to try to pick up the Sages as quickly as possible. Aquila on the ground. Aegis goes to U9. They mech up, but 456 has the split. So he's going to try to follow it up here. They can burst him, though. Oh, the triple raise doing damage. And they're actually able to bring down the Brewmaster, and the fight doesn't even begin. Oh, man, if that Brew ulti came through, that would have been a pretty good fight for Newbee.Y, I think. But as it was, the Brewmaster just couldn't get that split off. Perfect chain stun, double raise, and they're able to just clean him up no problem. So no split means no fight, and Morphling replicates out immediately back to farming. So yeah, Shadow Fiend's going to go for a pretty early BKB. Kind of have to do that against the Brewmaster. Just a lot of magical effects going your way. You really don't want to take all that damage, all that disable. Queen of Pain, though, working towards that Orchid. Probably going to force the Phoenix to go for a Yule Scepter next. I think he still goes for Hand of Midas. As you can see, he has 1,500 gold banked up. But after the Midas, he probably needs to go for the Yules. Otherwise, he's going to get silenced in the fights, and there's a good chance he won't get his Supernova off. So, Yule Scepter is the answer to that, just using it on yourself to nullify those effects. What else do we have here? A pretty poor Ancient Apparition, to be honest with you. 0-4. 2 assists, 9 last hits, ends up being a net worth of 1,800. So it's going to be kind of a 4-position Rubik, and then AA is just going to become the ward person. So initiation's still in the hands of Newbee. They still have all their cooldowns, but I think the Morphling's going to tell his team, just tone it down a little bit, guys. I'm not really wanting to fight for another 4 or 5 minutes at least. Just give me a little bit of space to farm, and that Lincoln Sphere will up my potential quite a bit. And it would be very true if that was the case. So, we're going to see a bit of a passive phase as neither team really wants to fight. Tongfu need their cooldowns back. They used the Echo Slam earlier, the Supernova as well. So I think that they're going to be just kind of waiting things out, and Newbee.Y, they're going to let the Morphling farm a little bit. They'll go for a pickoff. That's the right play. Don't commit to like a 5v5, but look for like a 3v1 pickoff. Phantom Lancer up here, can they find the real one is the question. They're going to run right into the real PL. They'll go for the clap. They will find the real one, and Doppelganger is going to come out in time. But where's the Rubik looking to finish it off? No, he can't get in range. The little illusions, the Jester is going to run across the battlefield, but a fail smoke in the end. Phantom Lancer is just too hard to kill in those situations. As much as I was talking about how they don't really have control for Morphling to kill him off, the same goes true for the Phantom Lancer. Like right now, they need to get a lot more up against this PL to bring him down. The Orchid is not going to cut it for the Queen of Pain, although she's approaching it pretty quickly, the second Oblivion on the Courier. The problem is, he has so many of different abilities that will take that off. Specifically, he's going to be building Diffusal Blade and Manta Style. And he can use the Diffusal Blade on himself, or he can use the Manta Style. And both will dispel the Orchid and allow him to go for the Doppelganger. So it's really got to be the Rubik Lift. That's the hard stun, and that's why he's maxing it out. Sometimes you see like a 2-4-1 build, where you get to deal with the magical damage Tongfu's putting out a little bit better, but in this case, he just needs that lift to really do something, because it's their only hard stun. Back over to net worth though, Shadow Fiend and PL farming up really well. BKB 10 and Aegis up on SF. This is the time they kind of want to fight. Now that they have their cooldowns back up, they have this Aegis, they want to make use of it. Red might stay back and farm and then just try to BOT in if the fight gets interesting. But otherwise, yeah, they need to get involved. They need to really make use of this Aegis, and that will give them a nice advantage going into about the 20-minute mark of the game. Orchid coming up for the Queen of Pain, though. Pretty nice for the next team fight. Definitely going to cause the Phoenix difficulty, and Lina or Urshiger could be having some trouble against it as well. So, just overall, it's a good damage amp, good silence. Should allow them to fight a little bit more effectively, or at least gank that much more effectively. And Red just going for the quick TP down bottom. There are a lot of heroes here, but it looks like they're not going to be able to go for any kills. And in fact, look at the Dire Observer Ward. This one blocking off the central camp and scouting the jungle, and then this one here scouting the western part of the jungle in case this one got dewarded. So I think they got some pretty good understanding of what Newbee.Y are up to. But I'm really not sure why they're not 5-manning right now, or at least 4-manning. Sorry, they could go for 4-man right down the mid lane. They have an Aegis, they have the mechanism, BKB 10. And 36 souls. They could go down the mid lane as 4 heroes, have the PLT BOT in as needed, and they could easily take the tier 2. But I guess they're just respecting the Brewmaster split as well as that Sonic Wave. Very powerful cooldowns that could do a lot of work. So instead, the only pressure that's going to be put out on lanes is actually going to be from Newbee.Y on the bottom. Now that Morphling has his Liquid Sphere, he can push pretty much next to the base, and it won't really matter what happens to him. Once the Phoenix picks up Yules, that'll change a little bit, but as it is right now, I think he survives just about anything. Liquid Sphere, it's just pretty much this push insurance. He's always going to be able to go for it. And actually, yeah, they're going to go and punish the Phoenix, it looks like. They want to, at least. They're pinging him out. They know that he's at his... he's not at his weakest necessarily, but he is very vulnerable as a hero right now. I didn't really talk about this just yet, but it was something that came to mind in the draft. There are a few good replicant heroes. Specifically, the Brewmaster has the extra auto crit and dodge passive. You get the guaranteed crit when you immediately spawn him, and then of course you have the... Sorry, I thought there might be a kill opportunity down bottom, but the Queen of Pain is not there. And in fact, it's going to be a kill up top, it looks like. Kabu? No. Anyways, so what I was saying is the Replicant is going to be good for against Shadow Fiend. Presence of the Dark Lord is a great aura to steal. You also get the Aquila aura if you don't have one, but they do have that covered by the Morphling. So Piao, offensive Replicants should be against the Shadow Fiend if possible. U9 though, going to go and try to teleport to help out, but mid lane, the Earthshaker already dove upon, already dropped down, and it's not really any big cooldowns committed. Just the Orchid dive, and they get a kill. So now they're going to move down bottom, and Orchid's off cooldown, and if Phoenix tries to do anything here, he's going to get punished heavily. So, meantime, top's being pressured in much the same way. Kabu kind of giving him the backup support there. Probably needs to get an Observer Ward up here for Newbee supports. It looks like there's a problem of deciding who's going to buy wards, though. Like, right now, they're coming out of stock in 38 seconds, and MRR, like, he's been playing a 4-position Rubik for a while, but now you can see the MK saying, okay, enough of that nonsense, I need my Midas, and it's just going to be focusing on that. So, we'll see if the Rubik is able to pick up the wards now, or if he's going to delay it, and then they're just going to go for the Blink Dagger and the Midas. Because that's probable. What I think is going to happen is they're both going to farm 400 gold, and you're going to see Rubik pick up his Blink Dagger, and now you get his Midas. But in the meantime, they're going to be completely blind in this box. This is going to be the Roche fight. This is going to be tower push. A lot of this is just going to be complete lack of vision for them. Luckily, though, they did get some good vision up in the enemy jungle, up on the top lane, and into the Eastern Dire. So all in all, it's not bad for Newbee.Y to have this kind of vision. I'm just saying when it comes down to the Roche fight, it's going to drastically favor Tongfu just based on the fact that they don't have any vision in that area. So yeah, I would have to say that can be attributed to the timing, the Midas timing along with the Blink timing. They just, neither one wants to buy it, but it looks like MRR will actually flinch. He will say, I can get my Blink Dagger in a little bit. I don't have to get it now. And they're going to go ahead and smoke up. So U9, good position on the high ground, very defensive, very reactive. Doesn't have a Blink Dagger or anything, but still he can stand his ground with BKB and the Requiem until his team comes in. And here we are, smoked up, but not invis. This could be really good, catching people out. They can just Fisher here. They see it coming. It could be perfect. U9, though, oh, man, is going to BKB, and then Morphling just replicates out. Oh, wow, that is... Oh, that could have been so good for the side of Tongfu, but... The one problem they have, I think, is that this Observer Ward scouted things out. Scouted out the part of the trap, and they knew that there were people waiting, so they played it, approached very carefully. Because essentially what it was they smoked under this Observer Ward here. So if they make their move, it's going to be clearly right up into the standard path up these steps. So the best way to stop it is to hang around here, but to secure and that usually is just like, yeah, well, they wasted smoke. Good job. But in this case, when you have the Earthshaker in this kind of position, you can punish it by fissuring it out, and then you have like 2 or 3 people caught out here. So that would have been amazing. But the Replicant's the one to the Morphling's the one to scout, and he replicates out. And essentially, they trade a Smoke Deceit on Newbie's side for a BKB charge, number 10 for U9. Do have an interesting spot from SCC. Has the Orchid, knows the BKB's on cooldown for about 12 more seconds, but we'll see if they actually find an opening here. Would be amazing for them to actually get something out of this, but seems a little difficult. The Ice Blast, the jump in, but he's got his BKB coming off cooldown. 3, 2, 1. He will get it in time, but he's already taken so much damage. It will be him going down. Just impeccable timing from Newbee.Y to get that play, and that gets Ancient Apparition as Midas. Great gank there, and now actually PL gets replicated himself. We're seeing the Illusion Army go the way of the Morphling. This used to happen a lot more when PL's illusions, the ones that procced based on his ultimate, were a lot more stable, I guess is the best way to put it. They had a longer duration, so they kind of self-sustained themselves. And it used to be very common to pick up an illusion hero against the PL. Even like a Shadow Demon would be fine, but in this case, like a Replicant was really good for that kind of purpose. But we're going to see moving forward, then push the tier 1 with Shadow Fiend down, and it should be a pretty easy pick. But yeah, I don't think the Phantom Lancer is as good of a Replicant target anymore. He's still okay, but I think the Shadow Fiend's better. Because it's very unlikely that you're going to get all those hits and guarantee like an Illusion Army of your own. In fact, Piao's going to take some hits here. We'll be able to just waveform away, though. He has Ghost Scepter, too, so should be able to negate anything really forward. He does even throw an Adaptive Strike. He's not afraid at all. This Liquid Sphere gives him this like godlike immortality. It's kind of insane. Like, they're going to have to Diffusal Purge or Eul Scepter to set up a Laguna Blade. And it's just, there's too much that they have to commit to try to bring down this Morphling. He pretty much can play, like, just run circles around them and still just keep Strength Morphing away to survive. As long as he's got a TP scroll. That's one thing, is he doesn't have a Town Portal scroll, so it's not like he can waveform TP. And that seems to be the only weak point of his inventory. If he picks up one of those, he's pretty much unkillable, and he can do whatever he wants. Push this tier 2, anything of that nature, and build up his farm. And as you can see, it's allowed him to farm more aggressively. It's allowed him to build up more net worth than the Phantom Lancer. Phantom Lancer went for a combat item of Diffusal before finishing the farming and pushing item of Manta Style. So Morphling gets to just do a little bit more, and pull forward a net worth. It also helps that he doesn't have a Shadow Fiend competing for all of his last hits. Like, as you can see, these guys are pretty much neck and neck. Morphling has a clear advantage over his Queen of Pain, just because she's not as hungry for killing creeps. She's been looking to kill a lot of heroes. We're going to see a pretty big smoke movement here, and I don't believe an Observer Ward was in play to catch it out, so we'll see how Tongfu make their move. Blink is up for the Earthshaker, so we're going to see definitely a pick-off, but right now they're very reserved. They're going to go for the Blink, Fisher back, and MK will be brought down, but he just used his Midas. He's actually not too unhappy about that pick-off. I think Tongfu need to translate this into Roche or a Tier 2 tower if they're going to be happy with that exchange, and immediately you see the ping out. Red BOT's down bottom. And I think they go, grab the DD rune and go for the Roche. If they can do that before the Ice Blast hits the pit, then that's a worthy smoke to see. But otherwise, it's I wouldn't say wasteful necessarily. It's just that was all 5 heroes. They wanted something more. They wanted to push off of that. They wanted to get multiple hero kills off of that. Something more. I guess it's better than just wasting a replicant on it. BKB up for the Brewmaster very early on. Actually did not see this coming. 456 pretty much just rushing this item out. And that's very interesting to me. Obviously, there are quite a few stuns. We saw in that Roche position here when they were trying to contest the pit that Brewmaster got stunned out 3 or 4 times and got nuked down by raises. He's pretty much just trying to prevent that from happening again. But it is really interesting to see the BKB popped out so early. Another nice thing is that you get free opportunity to right-click without really much concern. So what he could do is, whenever he sees the supernova, just BKB and start whacking away at that, and he can kill the egg before splitting. And then he still gets the split off perfectly fine. We're going to see Red Manta immediately doppelganger away, but he still might be in some trouble here. Yeah, they send in all the nukes they can, and they will bring him down. It looks like Morphling E-bladed himself by accident, but, he's just spamming buttons. He's just trying to get him down quickly, and Phantom Lancer won't be able to elude them this time. But space created, they will go for Roshan, and it looks like they'll take that down pretty easy. The Eye of Scotty, along with the Lina stun, will pretty much make it more the damage from Roshan pretty low impact. So looks like he is just going to be cleaned up here. Aftershock also hits him. I actually forgot about that. So a lot of stuns between the Lina and the Earthshaker, and the Scotty Slow just makes it easy pickings. They'll get the Aegis onto SF and cover up those 36 souls. So again, I think they need to start pushing with this. I think Phantom Lancer is a great late game carry, but they have their answers. They have like the Sonic Wave that they're going to be able to maybe go for like Ag Scepter for. And in that situation, they'll clear out all the illusions. They'll be able to focus on the real PL. So all in all, I think that they don't want to really take this late game. If MK picks up an Aghanim Scepter, for example, that's something that they really don't have good tools to deal with. So I think they push off of this Aegis, but the question is what lane? Tier 2 tower, bottom lane is down to 980, mid's pretty full, top lane pretty low. So maybe go for the push on Tier 2 top, put out another one of those beautiful wards that gave them so much intel earlier, and Tongfu can start taking really offensive momentum. Because they're playing this really late game strat, but oh wow, Red getting caught out again. Oh my goodness, he's gonna doppel, but he's affected by the Ice Blast, so just a little bit of fire immolation and he will shatter. Oh my, what a pickoff. That's a blink on the Rubik, I think. Yeah, you have to have a blink on the Rubik to make that kind of a pick. There's no way you get that kill otherwise. And actually, Piao just goes for an E-Blade Adaptive Strike combo, shotguns down the Lina, and immediately picks up a gem to D-ward with. That's just gorgeous. Wow, some really big picks going the way of Newbee. We're going to see an Echo Slam come out onto SCC. Supernova will keep the Phoenix alive, and Queen of Pain will have to blink out to her allies. So, really interesting that Newbee.Y is able to actually take the offensive up against this Aegis. Just finding pickoff after pickoff, it really worked in their favor. I mean, the E-Blade pickoff is a no-brainer. The Lina does just, even with the Urn and Point Booster, doesn't have the effective health to deal with this Morphling when he's running on only 9 strength. He's just maxing out his Agi here, and he can do so much damage with the E-Blade. But the Phantom Lancer pickoff, the only way that happens is if you have a blink on the Rubik. Otherwise, there's just too much that he can do to get out of that. But they Ice Blast him during the telekinesis, they clap him down, crit him down, and his disengage was ineffectual. So we're going to see the gold and experience graph go dramatically in favor of Newbee.Y after those pickoffs. Doesn't count the Gem of True Sight, but that's actually a huge pick as well. Where do they actually put the gem? On the Ancient Apparition. Okay. So A's going to kind of stay back here, just farm and just use his ultimate at global and try to keep that gem in their hands as long as possible. They've already dewarded once with it. They already got some value out of it, but it would be nice to hold it for as long as possible. So here it is. Kabu's gem, that's 900 gold out of his pocket. That is going to be helping out Newbee.Y in Is this going to be Brewmaster, though? He's in a weird little position here. Earthshaker. Not going to connect with the Fisher, and all they saw was essentially a ward come down. They probably might have thought it was an obs if they weren't looking at his inventory, but in either case, they'll put a sentry ward about here, and they'll take out whatever it is. Looks like Morphling was farming on the bottom lane, replicates back in whenever he's in danger, and all they do is pop his Lincoln Sphere with Spirit Lance. Nothing more. Phantom Lancer does get the deny on the tower, though, so although Piao's farming up a Storm and actually about to break net worth over the Shadow Fiend, it still doesn't change the fact that the tower does get denied and Newbee don't take that objective in full. So, big items coming out would be the most likely Scythe of Ice coming for SCC, a really important tool for locking down the Phantom Lancer, and potentially that Phoenix. Since he does have a Yules, the Orchid doesn't really work as well against him, so they go ahead and they just Hex him instead, and that could take him out of the fight. So we're going to see the Corey move out to the Secret Shop. I have seen Quaitapay and Scotty, but with the Morphling on their team, he'll probably go for that, and there's really no reason not to go for Hex here in my mind. So we're going to see it come out, and we should be in a pretty good spot to use it aggressively. Of course, buying out for it does put out some risks, but they have a lot of towers to go through before the high ground can be taken. Kabu's actually going to be taking farm priority here. Like, they're intentionally not farming the Shadow Fiend and Earthshaker here. They're just kind of chilling out, farming out the waves that come to them, but they're leaving the jungle to Kabu, and they really want him to get something, and it looks like it's going to be the Aghanim Scepter. I mean, he could just build up more tank items, but the Aghanims kind of gives you a little bit of both. You get that Ogre Club, you get a little bit more HP against the Morphling, and then you can obviously try to send some crazy high damage nukes the other way. We're going to see a smoke, though? No? It looked like smoke formation, but it looks like they're just going to say, hey, we can go mid. We have a Hex. Come at us. And as long as the AA stays back, I don't see why they couldn't just go for this tier 2 tower. But they're going to do it subtle. They're going to all move together as 5, clear back, and then back off to get the smoke at a seat. So, kind of weird timing, weird formation, but if they wait a little bit longer, Piao can just pick up his Scotty and feel a lot better about the next fight. So, I think they'll just kind of be patient with it. Piao's item is too important there. And Newbee really start pulling ahead when 3 big items come out. The Ascotty is going to be here for the Morphling. The AC is going to be up for the Brewmaster soon. And then the Aghanim Scepter on the AA. You get all 3 of those, and late game secured. Like, that is insanely potent. They're going to try to bait with the Brewmaster here on the mid lane. 456 will just start pushing out, but they have that full smoke. Ideally, they would be pushing with the Replicant too, because it looks like a real hero. But either way, they catch him by surprise. Kabu goes down quickly. And with that, they engage the rest of the map 5v4. They know Kabu's down for 45. They know he's pretty desperate for an item, so he probably doesn't have buyback. And they're going to take the tier 2 at least. But we do see an interesting flank. LPC, could he go for an Echo Slam here? Oh, difficult position. Fog of War, he goes for it, but the Echo whiffs completely. And now he goes down to the E-Blade. Going to see even Echo stolen. Are you serious? MRR with the big steal. And he's got the Blink Dagger to actually show it off, too. Jeez. That couldn't have gone worse for Tongfu. Now the 2-2 is certainly done, and he can just go ahead and finish his Scotty from the Secret Shop with a Dire. So, suddenly, Newbee.Y, they are in a tremendous advantage in this game. They're getting all the items they need to close this one out, but I'm not sure about high ground just yet. I think that they just want to kind of control the map a little bit, look at the Radiant Observer Ward on the plateau, kind of making Lena wish that she had a gem, but that one's been fed away. A couple items are going to be coming out for the side of Tongfu, though. We do have the Scotty pickup for U9. I talked about that in the last Roche that helped them a little bit there. Really good with Phoenix in general, because reducing attack speed means that you're more likely to keep that Supernova in play, especially now that it's level 16. The Phantom Lancer, he's going to be looking for a harder Tarrasque. He's gotten picked off a couple times. That extra HP will pretty much make him unkillable in the open battle. And as long as he's not willing to commit. As long as he's trying to use all of his abilities to escape and run, this guy can pretty much survive anything now and escape anything. But if he tries to fight, as he eventually will have to, that's a different story. U9 not going to be pulled into the Ice Blast, but still hit by the Echo Slam. A lot of nukes going his way. BKB comes out. Nice mechanism, BKB. U9 now looks to turn and fight, and they actually have a decent advantage here. With all these abilities on cooldown, there's going to be the Bruise Split that turns the fight back in the favor of Newbee. Looking for that Tornado. Gets it on the Phantom Lancer with no illusions in play. PL's completely taken out of the fight. Now isolated. Silenced. He'll Manta out of that. He'll Doppelganger forward, and he'll go onto the supports. They Laguna down the Queen of Pain. They bring down the Rubik, and a great Supernova comes into play where it cannot be destroyed. So Piao has to disengage, has to waveform out. Really bad spot for him to be in, and he will be caught by the Yules. Lincoln Sphere gone, and the stuns come through. They will wipe them out. 3 down. I believe they bought back, or did he really survive? Man, he was down to like 20% HP in that fight, but Tranquil Boots bringing him back up to full, and he walks away. Still, some great damage from Tongfu. They take down 3. It says for only 1, and yeah. I mean, dealing a lot of damage in the second half of that fight. The Phantom Lancer just throws out the lance on the supports, and the plague spreads. But, of course, gold goes mostly the way of the killers. The Phoenix, the Lina, and the PL each picking up 1, and all getting a big chunk of experience there. So, good damage from their side. The Aghanim Scepter finished from Lina thanks to the kill of the Queen of Pain. And they're going to move forward in their items pretty hard. The Hex is going to be coming through, and just 200 gold for the Phoenix. That's a really big deal. What else do we have here? It looks like that's about it. But as far as how that fight played out, it was just they committed so much to the Shadow Fiend without actually doing much to him. Like, they actually put out a lot of damage into him, threw a lot of nukes his way, used the Ice Blast and their Echo Slam. Like, those are Ice Blast and Echo Slam were 2 big kills. Skills for the first half of that fight, and they were pretty much wasted because U9 just pops his BKB mech and then turns it with the Requiem. Like, he's just a great hero to turn the fight against the enemy. And he does go down eventually, but they committed so much to him that the other 4 heroes end up just doing work. So, really good time to stand his ground. U9, he pulls the fight in his team's favor. And they look for the next Roche, which is the maximum possible timer. 2 minutes and 10 seconds have elapsed, but it's going to have to be the full 3 minutes before the Roche shows. And both teams are going to know at that point that that objective is alive and ever critical. That is going to be a really big deal. So, Aghanim Scepter up on the Ancient Apparition, AC up on the Brewmaster. These are all the game-winning items for Newbee, but I'm just still not entirely sure. Tongfu obviously took that really big fight. Now they've got the Hex on the Phoenix. There's some real potential for them just to close this one out if they take one more big fight. One more fight around the Roche Pit in particular, since the Supernova can go on the high ground. Any of these cliffs here, the Supernova can be put, and it's much more likely for it to survive there. So, really good Roche fight potential for Tongfu. But it's likely that there will be a stalemate actually around this pit. Nobody's really going to be just jumping into the Roche pit. Aegis and Cheese is a key resource for this, for the ability to end this game, but I don't think that either one is willing to just jump into the pit and go for it without the other losing some heroes. It's just, there's too much. I mean, the Sonic Wave Ice Blast combo in the pit could already wipe out most of Tongfu's HP. And then adding in an E-Blade on a low HP target, Brewmaster jumping in, like, no, it would be disastrous if Tongfu committed that. So they're going to go for a smoke play first. If they find a pickoff, that's Roche for them. And actually going to find the Rubik out. Perfect timing for them, but he blinks out. He's actually going to get pretty far, but the Fisher, the Hex, the death of the Grand Magus. And now it's going to be the Roche going to Tongfu. It's got to be on Newbee.Y to make a really big play happen here. Level 15 Ancient Apparition, throwing that level 2 Ice Blast. And here we are, a nearly even game here, 41.5 minutes in. Tongfu commit to the Aegis and Cheese, and it looks like Newbee.Y are going to let them have it. They're just split pushing away, no Ice Blast to go. Now finally comes in, but it's not going to be enough to disrupt them without follow through, and the Queen of Pain's mid. So they're just trying to split push it. There is a glyph. Yeah, I actually think he's going to find out the Ancient Apparition, and he's going to be able to bring him down. He does Supernova there to break the Cold Feet, but in the end, they are going to be able to bring down the AA. In the meantime, though, there's their base getting glyphed up. Who has TPs on the side of the Dire? Wow, very few TPs here. They're all trying to scramble to get back home, but the racks are falling rapidly. Shadow Fiend, he dropped his TP for the Aegis, and it took him a really long time to get back. Piao going to try to disengage. Light Strike Ray, Laguna Blade brings them down. So they do bring down the Morphling just for their melee racks. And they did, of course, bring down the AA too. So really interesting exchange there. Not sure if they needed to lose their tier 3, their glyph, and their melee racks, but they still get the Roche, the Aegis, the Cheese. They still kill off the Morphling and put him ill at ease. Hopefully some people appreciate that rhyme. What the heck is this? Is this an effigy? I guess it's like probably one of his animations where he's like spawning from the earth or something, and it's like the first frame where he's actually not in the picture at all. What the f... This is a interesting building to destroy for gold. 456 committing with his BKB. Kabu has no Laguna Blade, but he is able to get force staffed out by LPC. So no kill for the Brew, and the BKB wasted. Tier 2 will fall in the mid lane. And we do see the Doppel forward. So the Illusions are going to start hounding away at this tower, and the Glyph of Fortification is not going to be up for 10 seconds. MK tries to do what he can, but honestly, it's not much. And really, he might just die straight up. He's trying to create space, create opportunity for the Brew Split to do its work. H-Apparition will fall on the southern end, but U9 will be hit by a lot of disables here. Rubik with the Stolen Sunray doing some good damage, but now getting fissured out. Long tornado onto the Shadow Fiend. He'll go back into it. They're going to try to focus down onto Red, but he just purges it off himself. He has Cheese. Can he use the Cheese? No, he can't. He'll go down without popping the Cheese. He won't even buy back in BOT. They're just going to Laguna Blade down 456. He's dead, but Piao and SCC are in the fight, dealing with the damage. They force the Aegis once. U9 doesn't get out just yet. There's the force staff away. There's the buyback BOTs from the PL, and they're going to commit to these racks here. Or are they? They just bought back. You're supposed to commit. They have the Cheese. Will they swap it over to U9 is the question. Waiting things out a little bit. Now they're in the Shadows. Waiting just a little bit longer, and now they have the HP to go forward. No split available, but Piao just quick E-Blade. Nice Manta dodge. Those projectiles. That nerf. Mechanism and Urn. He's feeling confident now. Swaggering up to the top of the steps here. He's going to go for the racks, and Piao going to get dunked on. Echo Slam, he's strength morphing up hard, though, and 456 jumps in to help him out. Nice BKB. Really good right clicks, and they're going to be able to bring him down. Could this be a dieback for the Phantom Lancer? MRR doesn't really have any big skills to use. Yeah, and his telekinesis is on cooldown, so it's going to be on everybody else to bring him down. Red does get stunned out. He will go down. That's 100 seconds without the Phantom Lancer, and it could be the Game of Throws. They wanted to commit to finish those racks off, but the disengage is weak, and they tried to focus the Morphling. Why the hell do you focus on Morphling in this fight? I don't know. Lilina's the only one that can do damage to him, and he just strength morphs up back up to full and goes back to his fountain. Oh, wow. Like, I liked the buyback BOT from the Phantom Lancer. I thought that could be a good commitment just to focus the racks down and get the hell out, but they... Right here, smack dab in the middle of the base, they say, hey, here's Piao and 4 creeps. Let's Echo Slam it and throw everything we have at him. But Morphling's the kind of hero that will survive through that if you don't have a Hex disable. And he didn't get disabled. He just kept morphing. He just kept surviving. And the end result now is they are really hurting without their carries. Shadow Fiend's certainly not going to buy back. That's mid lane Iraq's gone. Top lane falling. Oh, this could be a Game of Throws, boys. Newbee.Y looking really good right now. They were on the defensive. They were considering it the midnight hour almost, trying to defend their high ground, but they wiped them out once, and it's going to be on Phoenix, and no Echo Slam Earthshaker to make the plays happen. Kabu on the front line, Shadow Blading in, a very nice surprise attack. Going on to Piao, they need to bring down the Morphling here, but he's just too beefy. He turns around with the E-Blade. They go and Sonic Wave everyone with the Ice Blast on top. Kabu just needs like 2 right clicks against him, and boom, he shatters. Now U9 trading hits, but he has a finite health pool. He'll force Piao back. Can he get the waveform off? Strength morphing as best he can? No, the damage is insufficient. And that is going to be the buyback from the Earthshaker. Not sure why, but they're just trying to guarantee that they route them out. LPC almost gets a Fisher onto the Queen of Pain. Still going to go for it, but I think it's too late. TP will succeed. So the end result here is 5 out of 6 racks down for Tongfu. All they have left standing between them and the brink of defeat is 690 HP on a ranged barracks and a glyph of fortification just coming off cooldown. They buy their BKBs. They still have that surprise Shadow Blade. But game is hard. They threw so much at the mid lane. They wasted so much there with the Morphling just being that juicy treat that they wanted to bring down. I mean, it's kind of the mentality you want against a solo carry lineup. But the Queen of Pain, until she picks up her Refresher Orb, really isn't a full-on carry. Like, she does good damage, but she's not, like, scaling. But the problem is, all that into the Morphling, there's nothing to stop them from just tearing you apart. And the Brewmaster does that really effectively when he jumps in like that. So now Tongfu, they're pretty much all in here. They have to break down the racks, and possibly even the tier 4s are bust. They're smoked up. They're looking for an Echo. They're just going to put red on the front line and have LPC ready to slam at any moment. But they didn't even force the Morphling buyback. Morphling's going to respawn, have that second life available, and they're going to go in. SCC hexing up. LQ1 going to get caught out here. The Ice Blast just going across everyone. Good debuff coming through. And U9 going to be the target of fire here. They can't do much to him during the BKB, though, so they just bring down the Earthshaker. And now the Phoenix Egg is actually exposed, but the Brewlings can't do anything to it. They just go on the SF. If they bring down the SF, they should win this game, and they will do so. Now it's only 3 left for Tongfu, and they're all on the run. 2 to the south. Red mans up on Piao. This is the man fight to end the game here. Red commits, tries to burn all of Piao's mana, but Piao just keeps morphing and waves down the Lina. Water trumps fire and extinguishes Tongfu's flames. They will go down here. A 5-man wipe for Newbee.Y, and that is going to be the GG. 11,000 net worth in favor of Newbee.Y. Oh, wow. What a conclusion to this game. That push down mid. The Phantom Lancer bought back and they committed, but they committed to the heroes, and they lost big. Tongfu, really rough run for them. This is a doubleheader for them, so that means they get 2 more chances to put some points on the board here in the earlier stages of the group stage here in iLeague China. This is their debut here in this tournament, trying to qualify for the next stage and competing with some really good teams for those points. But right now here in this group, they are now 0-2 against Newbee.Y. Hopefully we can see them fare a little bit better up against their next opponents. Tongfu versus Dream Gaming is going to be the next match, and we're going to be going into that pretty much immediately. We're right on schedule to jump into that one, or actually, yeah. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, I myself am Blaze. Look me up on twitter.com/blazecasting, and of course, look for everything Beyond the Summit. Head over to beyondthesummit.tv for their coverage hub. This is iLeague China. This is going to be a 2-0 for Newbee.Y, and they are looking really good in this group stage. Their standings are incredible. They're taking some big wins off of some tough teams, and Tongfu is among them. This wasn't the easiest win for them, but they pulled it out in the end, and I really could see them advancing. I actually could. Like, this might be their first major tournament that they're getting into, but they are already showing what they're capable of here, and I really love to see the new blood flowing in the veins of China. Awesome to cast this game for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in just a few minutes for the next match. It is going to be Tongfu going up against Dream Gaming.